Good morning, everybody. It's good morning. And to do myself, Adisorn Muakpimai. I'm the same department of the on. I fly from Bangkok yesterday about 10 hours. And many delays of flight. I have arrived at the hotel about 12 p.m. And that's only 1 or 2 hours for sleeping. So that is, if I lecture why I sleep, it's okay. There's dreams. My lecture is simple. It's very simple, but very long because I have to present you about the 200 pages on PowerPoint. Many pictures. That's easy. I think there is a picture that is should be to the interpreted of the base of the from your interpretation. I teach around the general education about the world history, but usually I talk about the Thai history, the 19th century. I focus about the economic history and the business history. I visited Gadjah University at 25 years ago. That is the first time that I visited Indonesia after the 1991, after the Soviet collapse. That is the reverse of the thing. Watch this. My soft material that I present you, that is only short about the three chapters on three pages about sociology, not history. Right? There is Manuel Castells, there is the big names of the zoology, and Savas. Why not I use the zoology? Because I have a history. Because the history, that is the limit of the approach. Because that's only theories about something like this. So I would like to practice about another fields to my history, right? Yeah. So then start. The topic that should be the urban activities and urban culture in Southeast Asia, case study of Bangkok. That is because it's easy to study about in your areas, but another perspective, right? So let's start about this. That is the one record about the Municipality Act. Municipality Act, that is the act that it shows about the cities, about the urban. But in the 1932, before the revolution of Thailand, King Rama VII have those to abroad to the Canada, and he have interviews about he would like to set about the Municipality Act in Thailand, but that was not because King Rama VII, the thing that is the Municipal Act, that is the first experience for the first democracy in Thailand, but it's not changed because the revolution is come here, right? That is like the same of the city. That is depend on the size of the population growth, the growing economies about the state revenues because at the expense of the taxation. There is the state of the taxation of the state about to have the revenue to the expense for the budget in the after day. And the third, that is the political importance about considering of the growing of the representative. That is the first in the 1953 after the Civil War II. That is the same. And from the city to the urban, used from some scholars. He died. There is the FAB. You know about the FAB? The FAB have the one book that is very used. That is the Critic Everyday Life. Do you know that? Critic Everyday Life. That is the contradiction about something about the urban history about because he is a Marxist approach. He said that's it. The city should be to the urban internal growth by themselves. There's the families or something of the interactions of the economics, politics, and culture. Another one that is the immigration, because you know that is the immigration that is the huge of the migration of the world in the 19th century to the 20th century. Today they have the many migrants from another fields. If you study from the information about the UN or OECD, you can trace back to the contemporary issue about the immigrants. Look like you that is you migrate from another island from Indonesia, and but that is the reform state by infrastructure, because you could know that the infrastructure that brought some community, some business, or something to construct the communities. Look like the urban or new city in the world, like Jakarta, that is different from the Yogyakarta, because in Jakarta that is the new trend of the new economies, because they have new business in the 19th century that changed because they depend on the multinational enterprises, right? And the state have to grow up by the foreign direct investment, right? That is the same, right? And that's in the fact that is mentioned about that is the urbanism. Urbanism. And the person is study it's the study of urban identity. This workshop that would like to inspire you to the cosmopolitan historian, right? Right, inspired you have many lectures, many theories, right? They have to use these sources and the theory to the cosmopolitan history. But urban identity that is different, right? Urban identity that it should be expressed through architecture. Tomorrow you have the first field trip at the temple, right? And also that is city. Why do the UKM set the temple areas? Not Parapanan, not Borobudur, because it's expensive for students. No, that is it. Why? They would like just you to preach or something. By tomorrow, that should be the temple, field temple. Because temple, that is a traditional architecture, right? That it shows us about the pupils in the lost way, but in nowadays there is difference because they change the behavior, they change the urban life or lifestyle or culture, but there is still the sanctuary, right? There is still they just change like a church, something like this. So that is mean that the fact that is holding architecture that it should be the cultural stereotypes of each urban, right? That is there is many immigration. There is categories that you should know. I think that I cannot I should focus about this refugee, labor, tourist, traffic person, students, business person through territory borders. That is measured transnational perspective. That is should be not focus only nation, but the transnational and international. There's movement from the people of the ASEAN that is very focused on this area because you are in the Southeast Asia area studies or other things. There's migration related economic concept opportunity to more. In the 1970s, in the 1950s, 1980s, there is many economic growth in the Southeast Asia. Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Thailand at the same development by the foreign direct investment. There's many crowds that migrate about something like this. That is implicated from the many social groups. When you listen from the Professor that he Wong about the Chinese in the Southeast Asia, the Chinese is very crowded in this country. There is an expansion. They have agriculture developing about the rice, about the rubber, about the palm oil or cassava. That is mean that the many fields of the agriculture, there is a cash crop, right? It's a cash crop. That is mean that there is the culture of the workers of this field. So That is to show us about in Thai perspective. Ministry of Labor try to set about the Thai people work in each countries in ASEAN. So there's many. There's still many, right? Because that is the business. That's the transnational of the opportunity to obtain about it. I have the one question of my students about it. If you choose about the 2,000 US dollar salary in India and only 1,000 US dollar salary in Thailand, which one that he should, you cannot, India or Thailand? You think India? No. My student chose Thailand because there is a comfort zone. Yes, there is a comfort zone because he not remember about the chance of the transnational careers in another country. That is a problem of the young students of my students in many classes about this. This is one of the workers in the borderlands of the Cambodia. It had a queue to carry about the community between the Cambodia and Thailand. There is a casino, right? That is set about after the 1993 of Cambodia. This is a family, the families of the workers. And another queue, not tourists, but this is casino people, Thai people. A week there, that's the finish in the business. They catch a bus to play the game at the casino every week. That is the interaction between the peoples about the borderlands, right? It's not the business that's the same or something. That is for example, in 1993, that the first time I visit Cambodia after the first elections, right? That's different. 1993, and it's about the last year. That is the Cambodian peoples in the fishery, right? It's a new one. It's a Phnom Penh. It's a Thammasat, like this. That is same year in 1993. It's way nothing. People, let's clear. I visit here because I'm afraid that it could be another conflict after the first election in 1993. I have to take a chance. I'm not afraid to talk about that. There is a shop, small shops, that is urban. That's just only the city, right? There's under construction about the road and about the new home of the Cambodian workers in the fields, about the farmers, something like that. So, one thing that Lisa Hong to study compare between Bangkok and Singapore about 10 years ago. She said that the part of mobility in the modern Asia city that it depends on the three conditions. One is the expression of trade. In the 19th century, it's a free trade, right? There is a New World Order in the 19th century that is to make the treaties about each country. Another one is colonialism. That is mean the change about when you study about the South Asia study, you study about history in the colonial period and after colonial period, right? Colonial, that is the terminologies of the discussion about this. And the third, that is the expression of nationalism, because it's the grow up of the people to say that nationalism after, not after the independence, but before. That is the force of the South Asia dynamics in terms of all this. In Thailand, it's the same. Bowing Treaty in the 1855, that it shows about the immigrants and something that many Chinese marine flyer Danny Wong mentioned about the earlier. That is Bangkok in the late 19th century. The first custom house in Bangkok in the 19th century to taxation about this. It's about the Chinatown in the Bangkok of the 17th century. That's the same of the Chinatowns of the South Asia city that you the Sunday have a chance to see about this in Yogyakarta. There is many factories, many business office surrounding about the Chapaya River. There is the Ratchabong port that is the main port of the business of the Chinese immigrants, of Chinese importer and exporter. There is the same. That is the first of the association of Chinese in Thailand. But it still shows about the identity of Chinese, right? It shows about the costume, about the something like this, like this. And the Chinese worker is still Chinese in Bangkok. They can keep about their identities from the motherland. There is something. There's Bangkok. There's the Japanese business in Bangkok. Gealogo, Limited. There is sales about the photo, about the take photo. There is the modalities of the new people to take a photo in the house or something. Gealogo, that is the pioneer or pilots of the business of Japanese in Bangkok. Okay. Yamaguchi and corporate. No, not Chinese. Because the new city that is the open gateway for the migrant to take profits in the open countries of the thing. There is Japanese. There is advertising of Yamamoto. Advertising about they have the news of their business, something this. So that is being that when they use the sociology to study about this. That is the mentions of the Manuel Castell critics, his professor, Prof. The thesis that is architecture, design, and public space in Thai society often exclude people from the area. That is a decision-making process that they use this now the new ideas about something like this. The Buddhism is the research inspired from the problems of Buddhism, the idea of reason of forgetting other things for human life. Then it shows that it means that the perspective of to study about the urbanism to transnational perspective to studies about this. You can do that and getting the fact about it by Manuel Castell. Manuel Castell, that is how about the study about the city. Because the study of it as an ideology of the study of things in the city is not specific. It's not like the Chicago city plan as a policy in the 1930s. If you compare with your countries, about your city, about your urban, you have to focus about the period that is the change of your urban or your country that has changed, not the 1930s. Because the 1930s in the Chicago there is a difference. In Thailand there is the difference that is from the 19th century and before the Second World War II. After Second World War II, you have to set the consequence of the periodizations of the economic change or the landscape change about your countries, about something like that. That means that because they point out the fact is just replacing capital with urban. Because that is the problem that Prof present about in her perspective, views about Marxist approach. he compared the urban as a capital. There is a point exploitation about the people, about the class. That is the powers of the urban. There is the power of the class, not the elite class, that is the business class and something like this. That is mentioned about this. That is, urban has a unique function in the capitalism, not the same, but it's unique. So it means that Mario Castell, that is critic about the in the world of consumption. In the world of consumption, that is study to city should be what is called the spatial units of collective consumption. Last year, when I see some news at German, I think that they have some examples about the non-government organization about if the convenience store or supermarket has sold the product of multinational enterprise, it should be anything else addressed? No. Because all the product is the matter of the multinational enterprises categorized. That is that you depend on the multinational enterprise product. You have to recognize and to locate it by the control life that the multinational enterprise has set it for about the long life of you, of your parent, or something like that. That is mean that is the European city give the priority to the welfare state, have to make to set about the city, and that is called cultural policy in the city, or to shape the workers to work in the factory again. That is mentioned. That is the use of Marxist approach to study about the urban, something like that. And the one material that I present you to read, that is the one chapter of the book of the Manuel Castell, The City and the Grassroots, a cross-cultural theory of urban social movement. That is easy to study about the society perspective, to study about the urban culture, urban activities in transnational perspective. That's something that is. And David Harvey had the same. That is mean that when I focus on the urban history, I cannot use the historical approach that I have studied before. I have to use another fields because I use from the architecture, I use from the sociology, and to study from my friends that is study. He is a former student of Manuel Castell. He sent many papers of Manuel Castell to study. That is very interesting to use it. And something that is the question of urban is not exotic question in the former times. The global community has a limited urban space, but it's filled with the factories. The fact argued about it. To understand capitalism only in the two areas of the factory does not must be understood that is linked to the also space too. It means that in the space architecture, people, you have to connect by different views, by different the activities about it. And you think that it you sleep overnight, right? But in my generation, I sleep early. 9 o'clock that is the time to sleep. 4 o'clock that is should be to wake up. That is different. I have some problem of my student here because my course is beginning in the 8 o'clock. In the 8 o'clock. And until to the 8 p.m. The 8 p.m. that is but it's high. That is different. That is depend on the generation. That is the urban life in the world culture that is different. The night life of mine and night life of you, that is different, right? But I like that thing. Okay, that is the critique that you study about the fact about something. That is very important to study about the urban culture and urban activities from this. And the Buddhism is great from the province of Buddhism idea that is revolution of self-capital came urban by the fact. That is mean that why we should read Le Fact again? Why we should read Marx again? Why we should read anything else again and again? Because you have different views to read and studies about this, right? Something that is a revolution self-comedy. And how about the private lives of urban people that is presented by the George Ruby, the French historian? He is the late generation of the Anna school, right? You know about Anna school, right? He said that in the modern world, that is condition of many of the urban lives of the peoples in the Europe. What is the family and individuality? It means that the individualism has used any people to have the different from another. But the pluralism have to set it together about this. And also what is the private life in the bed and breakfast? That is the wife and husband face to face on the bed and the breakfast before the working. Right? Modern comfort for usual lifestyle. That is mean that is the urban life, urban culture in the urban history. Power sharing between wife and husband. Socialization by education and social practice. Marrying for love. Living together. Hygienic practice. The body treated with fear of illness. You think about the life expectancy of your generation and have the rest of 20 years before die. The life expectancy. But you have 40. You have 50 years. That is different. That is shame. Then it shows us about some families of the workers in the mid-20th centuries in the Europe. There is only one room, no door, just only curtain, right? Many children. That's it. Not curtain about it. There is a door. There's only one room. Baby is the king of the family, right? Baby is the king of family. You have a family? No. When you say that, they go, oh yeah. Because you hope that, right? That is for husband, right? Something. That is about the high class and the comfort zone and about the first, the washing machine and the robot, right? That is the cuisine of the high class. It shows us about the different from the worker, something like this. That is solemn. That the unisex of the first, right? That's the people's identity. And the American dreams that there is inspiration of the many migrants to set this like this. This is the American pictures and the Italian pictures. We try to catch it up like this. Are they different? You said the cleanliness, clothes, about the second hand, third hand, that is a custom made, right? Very different, you know? Forms of the public school in the UK and often that is the duties of the Christianity, not the state, right? It's the first thing. That is the socialization for the washing, for sharing, for the summer camp. That is to set the discipline of the young generation to the main of the peoples of this state at the 20th century. That is the scout, hospital. In case of Bangkok or by case, when I compare this with this, that is in the late 19th century that Thailand has started the rice field to the export or the main export in the 19th century. That is the Rangsit Canal. That is the new irrigation of Thai peoples. Many Thai peoples that is migrated from the northeastern part of Thailand, about 600 100,000 people to work this. He changed it. They leave the motherland to this like this. That is the first exhibition of the agricultural exhibition of King Rama, the fifth in the early 20th century, like a World Expo. This is the rice fields, that is a rice boat in the canal, that is the exotic for to see this. Because who take the photo, the Western people, that is different, right? That is the private school in Bangkok in the early 20th century in the girls' schools. That is the schools and the teacher. That is the teacher from Japanese teacher. It's the silk law, that is something like this. It's Nakamura Yokoto and Hitsuya. He's an expert about the silk industry in Thailand in the early 20th century. Something Nakamura. The exhibition, they have the fashion shows about the costume of the elite in the 20th century. That the urban lives of the newcomers. Thai people started a book at the same days in nowadays it's the same. Same structure, same forms, right? That is the girls' school for the elite family. The elite family. That is the wife of the king Rama V. Are not wife. Many wives, right? That is the one of three queens of King Rama V. His costume like Western. Like this. Like this. That is the King Rama VI and his fiancée. In the early 20th century, that is the era of modernism, not the era of the Coco Chanel, right? The era of the avant-garde, right? That is the newcomers of the culture that have to change this about this. That is advertising of the salon in Thailand. That is like hat of all of people, because they have to look like to the United Kingdom, like Queen Elizabeth II, right? They have to have something. Many has. My surname is Muakpimai. Pimai is area. Muak is hat. I have the root of the new houses of this, right? That's interesting. The mothers and the girls and the stepson, right? So you have the last son. One is a military, one is a business in this family. That is cultural policy to change about the costume of Thai people to change it. That is traditional. It should be a better. It should be this. It should be this. Like who else? Like Hitler. Right? That is the same culture. Right? That is the modernism. Right? That is urban. Right? Hitler, that is like this. 1930s. I like this picture because there is a business. Hitler, that is heroes of the Soviet countries of the leaders in the 1930s. If you study about it, and how about the bodybuilding of the people, right? In the line of fitness, like something that you right? You have to do something that is a military school that is to exercise about this. That is the field trips of the Japanese daughters in Thailand. And to go to Ayutthaya, ancient capital like the Japanese girls or from school to study the Gealogo. That is the old capital. That is a reminder to the country. There is a Japanese primary school in Thailand. And this is interesting. There is a Thai girls' school that is very old, that is Russian school or Queen school. But the teacher is Japanese. Because they believe that Japanese culture practice is the best, is the polite. When you want, right? That is Russian girls' school that should be slowly. My daughter study here. Something. That is different because they have a problem when he comes to school. Oh, there is a problem with my teacher. They teach me about this hair, about this cartoon. That is different of generation. There is a contradiction about this, something like this, is something, and this. That is the phrase of King Rama VI about this. He said, I do not want a walking with books. What I want prefer the manly young man, honest, trustful, clean in habit and thought. That is ethic, right? That is morality. Ethic morality, that is the state. The creation about the people in the 20th century should be scout, we brought it something like the same. Light up, right? Hey, you will go. In scout in this school in Thailand, a secondary school. Yes, on the right hand side there is a Hunger Games. On the left hand side there is the protester of the book data in the few years ago. That is a prohibited practice in Bangkok. If you show about this, you should catch by police. This means that is the conflicts between the cultures about the nation or about the tradition of something. I just discuss in the Eastern Europe, in the China, in the Kim Jong-un, in Korea. I like this. Kim Jong-un like a Doraemon. You think? That is the cultural practice about the Asian state. And talks about in Thailand. Maybe it should be the new head of the army in Thailand. They obsess about the symbolism of the present king. Is the yellow, yes, and the part it talks about the blue, like this. It used to CSR, but CSR that include the respect to the monarchy. After the previous king funeral, they have the big cleaning. They have to wear hat, blue hat, and yellow scarf. That is symbolism of the monarchy. It talks about the urban. Urban, it should be the difference. There is an over-urbanization in the third world. There is the study about the savage and holiday or anything else. That is a political effect of employment, particularly informality. That is the trend of the urbanization in the third world. Because there is the hirings of the workers in the same working permits, that is the difference. It should be the informality. City information is the social network. Social network not the internet, that is mean that you have to link about the communities. And before the 1990s, use the internet or something. How's about the community to link about this? ceremonies, for something in the practice. Tomorrow when you visit the temple area, you have to suggest about people, every people at the ceremony in the morning of tomorrow. You can see the difference because that is the same cultures of the link or something like this. And urban politics, urban social movement have been increasing about the protests, about the something of Rio or something in the conflicts in the 21st century or something. And non-agricultural and use consists of three parts that should be by the industry and the commercial markets area, a sort of urban planning by the land use map of zoning. Look like that is Savas studies about the land use model, about the burgers and toys or something, and the same. The sales models about the CBD or something in Chicago or something like Bangkok. They have to use zone mapping, like the MCLs. Use zone mapping, that is the negotiation between the powers, not state, but it depends on the business, multinational enterprise, not people. That is mean the power who authorize of the urban or the city, that is not state, but the business or the multinational enterprise. The new project of the Thailand, that is the CP or the Pokpapan, there is a big multinational enterprise to have to set a new city nearby Bangkok. Each said they would like to set a new cities of Bangkok by exclude the state sponsor. That is very tough to, that is my office. Yes, my office in the Thammasat University. That is the Grand Palace, and the hills, that is the Royal Field. The Royal Field, very huge, very complex. Right? That is something that will show you about something. That is a protest of the border peoples to protest the Cambodia at the Pravidia temple. There is conflict between the Cambodia and Thailand, but that is the first pictures about the 1957. That is the first protest between Thai peoples. That is the first of the road to the rice field at the Rangsit. That is the news and the cars and the factories that start. After the construction of the road, the workers play the games at the canal. Try the water volleyball, like something. That is the exercise of the culture. That is the first of the paper mills factory in Thailand. That is the road construction. The families in the canals in the early 20th century. That is the first entertained building of Bangkok people in the 1940s. This is a picture from the plane before the end of the Second World War finished in Bangkok. There are many pictures about this, about the huge of pictures about the 1,000. Many. There is take a photo. There is a bamboo. There is you have to ride a car from the center of the Bangkok to ballroom dancing. Right? To ballroom dancing. To eat in some restaurant. That is the urban culture. Right? That is the schools that is like this. Mana, Vinay. Vinay, that is the discipline. Mana, that is the try to train something like this. That is road. That is the step for the Bangpo, right, is the first picture that you see. Many buildings, architectures. So it means that is why Mario Castel mentioned about the words of Chang Russo. House build the town, citizens build the city. It depends on people, but people depend on the architectures, right? That you believe or live it. That is the bridge, first bridge from Bangkok. That is that like a monuments of the coup d'etat in the 1932. That is the first stadium. That is many buildings. That is not temples. That is the business headquarters or the traditional sign or something like this. Rail station, just like the manufacturing, right? Like you say, and the monument victories in the center of Bangkok. That is you see that is memories of the Indo-China or Indo-China War before the Second World War. That is construction by the engineer, Thai engineer who he finished bachelor degree or degree from the United States of America. That is the first construction to build about the new method and have difference of something else. That is Thammasat University. That is a building of the former military. So you would have to know about this because he studies about the archives and the museum of this building about this. If you would like to know, he can actually go. But the complex, not Thammasat. That is the traditional architectures of the front palace. That is the nowadays that is changed to the college of the fine arts. College of the fine arts. That is a fields. That's it. The regal schools that in the early 20th century, and monuments is the famous of the Radhanuddin Road. That is the democracy monument, democratic monuments. Democratic monument that is used about the interpretation of the events of the 24th of June in the 1932. 24, that is the long and breadth of the tower, 24. 3, that is centers, or that is huge about 3 meters. Because 3 meters, that is the traditional, that is the June, that is the 3rd month of the old calendar. And how about the 25 or the 1932? When you change to the Buddhist era, that would be the 25 in the rest. They have the big cannon to put it out, 25 cannon. But Thai people didn't memory this one because it is far away. But there will be the confrontation or the protest about the state or the government. That is the first step to the carrying to protest because there is the symbolism. That is should be that that will be the interesting urban symbolism in the city. Right? The monuments victory. That is the military camp. Now they changed that to the hospital. That is the first air terminal. Dornberg terminal. The first something. This is complex cities. That is the Juergen University. Right. Big flat, right? the difference there is something. You see the size is very huge. All of this by lecture, many picture. But another picture that is another file that is very big. So, do you have a question, please? Yeah.
When I was in Bangkok and I see the democracy monument, and I read an article about it, if I remember correctly, that the architecture of the democracy monument was inspired by architecture movements. So there's a very strong connection with the French ideas of modernity. And so I wonder that how do you think about the Bangkok people, especially during the 20th century, translate modernity? Because if in Indonesia, especially during the 20th century, modern means people more into European identities. And since if I remember correctly as well, that Thailand there is no colonial government, so there is no colonialism experience compared to any other places in Asia. And that's my first question. And the second question is like
very long question.
no, it's a very simple question.
Yeah.
Like, what is your opinion that do you think that if you think about urban culture, it means that European culture?
First question. This monument that is designed by the European sculptors who in charge of the Thai government in the name Thai Imperial City. That is the Italian sculpture. According to his diaries, he disliked this monument. He disliked it because this monument that it destroyed the monarchy that he preferred. Because he studied before in the 1910s in the Kingdom by the system. So that is mean that he to make new order to monuments. But the monument that is the difference because that is after the 1932, the new government, the new democracy that is called the constitutional monarchy, they would like to set a new agenda, new image of the Thai people. They have to abandon of the Thai tradition. It should be the tradition. It should be the new style like Juergen building, like a conference building in Thammasat. They have the news. The news that should be the modern. That is remember that the architecture in the period of the Hitler of Nazi in the 1930s. That is a huge, right? That is the realistic of the sculpture after this. That is mean that is the modern. It should not be to trace back to the monarchy, right? There is a difference. And the second, that is modern is a European, right? It is European, but not European exactly. They change to the use for the comfort or the something like this. That is the road. Road that is European, right? European. But they change to the urban in Thailand or another. They use for the people to something like this. This is something like the narrow building. They said to build about the business, but there are no business to rent about there because there is no people to walk in. So it changed to the government office, something like this. That it tried to set the urban culture of the Thai people in after the 1932. But it's not a success, but the new building that it absorbed to the image, but the new architecture look like this after that. Okay?
Thank you for the lecture, and I have three questions.
Oh my God, that is very long. Okay.
First about globalization, and second about immigration, and third related to Thailand and Japan. And about globalization, that you said that immigration oriented economic opportunity was in 1950.
1950.
Until 1980,
Yeah.
So was the Thailand government support the urbanization and then regulation, and what was the negative impact actually? But that you have said before that non-agricultural land use was no one work at agricultural land maybe. So when was the Thailand people felt about the negative impact of urbanization, and would the government control the urbanization?
Okay. Exactly in the 1930s, there had the big economic crisis, right? The Great Depression in the 1929, and the First World War, that is make the Thailand economics depressed. That is a big problem from the early 20th century to the 1932. So the government tried to set a new factory, a new manufacturing. They has made to the industrial in the economic nationalism by the state enterprises in the 1934. I think that is. There is many industry to run those studies, but it is only Bangkok. When I lectures about the fact or about Mokastel, about that is the urban, that is the industry, right? Industry sector. It means that the industry in the Bangkok in the 1930s decades is the surrounding Bangkok, right? Many cities. Because that is easy to set the manufacturing, but it's small factory. There were only 3 factories in Thailand in the 1930s. One is sugar, like chawa. So it means that Indonesia and Thai have the taste of money sweet, right? Something like this. And the second, that is a cement industry. That belong to King property or the Crown property. That is the big companies. And the third one, that is the modernities or the modern culture. That is the brewery, factory, Singha beer. That is the third biggest factory. It means the Thai people or the Bangkok or the urban people try to drink a beer, not the alcohol or something. Beer, that is the new culture of Thai people in the early 20th century. That is mean that many people of Thai that had to take works in the industry because they have more salary, more than. In nowadays, 70% of Thai people they have the residence at the urban, not the rural. That is different. That therefore increases rapidly because it depends on your view of generation. Thai people, after the finish the education, you have to single family, one people for one unit. We have to live in condominium or the apartment, not the single house. That is different. But my generation live in the house, not condominium, because I'm afraid about the condominium. That is huge. That is not comfort zone for my generation. That is depend on the hospital, on the very illness that is just to be mentioned about it. That is mean that the Thai people like to the negative about the agriculture because there is a low class, there is a low taste, there is a low culture. There is a discrimination, culture discrimination in the Thai society. That is still. There is when you read some document, when you say about that is a common product, that is the low class, not the middle class. The urban people should use middle class products, right? Okay, any questions? Yeah.
I have a question about transnationalism. So the kind of transnationalism that I understand presented in this lecture has been kind of about either emulation or synthesis and that kind of thing. But since the 1970s, the way that cities have been constructed is kind of really contingent upon that rationalisation of the processes of capital and accumulation and concentration within urban centres. So, do you think that the way that transnationalism operates in an urban environment now is significantly different than it was in the early 20th century? Is it now about this kind of, I mean, if we're talking about a cosmopolis like we are for this series of lectures, is it now this more abstract cosmopolis that's focused around capital, or is it more of the synthesis emulation that has been present from these lectures?
Good questions. That is first that it should be the not transnational first steps. That it should be the cosmopolitanism, right? Because cosmopolitanism that is there's many components from the various peoples from the abroad that is set to something. That is the Chinese. It began that the Professor Wong mentioned about a few days ago. In Thailand, you cannot separate about the Chinese or Thai, because Chinese and Thai that is the same ethics about this, because they have to pay respect to the monarchy. That is the studies of the anthropologists, scholars, Skinners. He said the anthropology department of the Juergen University, they have to plan to studies about the social project that to change the Chinese people to the Thai people. That is a big project. That is mean that Thailand, that is the special case that change the Chinese people to the Thai people by use the ideology of the state and the king together. That is the cosmopolitan, that is the first step. And about the transnational. Transnational, that is the second step of this process of the urban people. We have to abandon about the nation, right? You have to use about the transfer or the migration of the people. That is mean that in the example from the white peoples, that is the samples to studies about this. That is a transnationals. That is a conflict about the nationalism of the national state that have the many regulation of the state policy to control about the transnational process of this country. Especially in Thailand, you can see about the CSR, about the blue hat and the yellow scarf. That is mean that they would like to use the urban activities to respect of the new kings. As of now today, it start about the early year. I have to show something this. There is a cosmopolitanism that is the phrase that is under construction of this lecture. I think that the ethical confrontations of the urban people, that is the words of the Thai priest about the comments, another ethics, that is the crisis for Rohingya in Myanmar. There is the good views about this. That he said about we not Thai people. We still be a human being. Human could be the open for the perceived, the bad, or the some things that it hard feels of the Rohingya. Rohingya not the foreigner, Rohingya not status people. They are the human being. That is just show us for the cosmopolitanism about it. But about this, the right that is the Mahaviratu, right? You know about this. And another that is the comments of the Facebook of the Thai priest that is the hate and hate speech about the Muslims in Thailand. They provoke to the Thai people to protest the Thai Muslim in Thai society because there is a Muslim that is different from Thai people. That is the confrontation of the cosmopolitanism. That is mean the process of the globalization and cosmopolitanism about this. That is the different views about this discuss about this. Something like McDonald's, something here. That means the food. But now that is there is one festival of the present king to start the Un Airak for the Valentine days for 3 months. For 3 months. But that is the Thai government. Prime Minister, the Vice Prime Minister have to wear the Thai traditional costume, but Thai costume that is the elite costume. In the King Rama, the fish that is influence from the TV dramas that is famous in Thailand. If you could be in the YouTube, Upe Saniwa. It's very famous about this. That is a cosmopolitanism, not transnational. The truth that is difficult to catch up about what is different of cosmopolitanism and transnationalism or transnational history. That is should have two different views to studies about this. Any question? Stay the same. Yes.
I want to ask about, was there any need of alteration or need for diversity in Thailand, like the effect coming from Japanese people and the accepting the
There were only a few countries that have to launch a new business in the 19th century. One that is England, United Kingdom, right after the 18th or 17th, 18th century from the success of the revolution, industrial revolution. The second that is German. The third that is United States of America. The fourth that is South Africa. There's a colony of the you have many business. And five, that's Japan. Japan had many new business. About I read from some research of the one professor of the business history. They said in the Japanese in the late 19th century there was about 800 business firms. That's the time. That is the chance of the Japanese business to launch the business in the many countries or the many cities. One that is Bangkok, and also one that is Taiwan. That is mean that after the Second World War II, many industries from the Taiwan, including the Japanese, moved to the Southeast Asia. One of these sample that is the glutamate manufacturing. Do you know glutamate? You mean the sauces for the taste that is Ajinomoto, you know something? Yeah. That is Japanese business, but he cannot produce in their country because the prohibit for glutamate. Glutamate that is the danger for the people, that is the behavior or something or the perception. They have to move the factory to the Taiwan and now to the Thai and Indonesia. Yeah. They checked is 1950. 1960. That is mean that why the Japanese focus in the Southeast Asia in the early 20th century in nowadays.
So is that like only market-oriented one?
No, market-oriented. That is to stimulate about the cultures of generation about the disease. Look like the broiler industry. You have the chicken. Chicken that you eat it. That is to Japanese cut it off, not American. Because the wings about the legs about something of broiler industry or the chicken industry. That is the cultures of the Japanese food for this. And the broiler industry, how about the chicken that is come from the America, the Arbor Acre company, Arbor Acre. That is mean you eat the same kind of the chicken or broiler of American industry. CP, that is the joint venture of the Arbor Acre in the 1960s. I can still stand it after I have few sleep. Any questions? Okay, I think you tried about the many lectures. I think this is the 13th lecture, right? Yeah, 13 lectures. It's very. I discussed with the Parabi. Many lecture, but it's useful not for you, not for me. I would like to study my college friends to exchange about the record about to theory or something. I can handle about the new course in the Thammasat University about the next year or something. That is very interesting for this, right? That is depend on you that your workshop here, you can exchange about the experience or something, your field trip. That is the field trip that is simulated because that is a good chance for you because in my generation that is difficult to study abroad because that is depend on the scholarships, it depends on the political policy of each country, right? That is easy to use to this because in after 1990s, 91 that I mentioned in early, I travel a lot. Because that is out of comfort zone. The books cannot prove it about my idea that the travel that is why I use the guest perspective. It should be focused on this field trip. Okay, nothing else. Thank you very much.